All right, it's May the 13th. Pastor Hovind, you know that I always like to see what our countdown timer says, and we got 4 days, 14 hours, 6 minutes, and 15 seconds until May the 18th at 8 o'clock in the morning, and that's 40 days from where we originally started counting down, so it's been quite the countdown here. So we'll start with Bible questions, Pastor Hovind. The first one comes in from Scott, and Scott writes, "Can you please ask Dr. Hovind another question for me? I wanted his opinion on something. I've been thinking about Dr. Hovind. When Jesus says, a sign of his coming is when the sun and the moon go dark, do you think he was referencing an all-out nuclear war? God bless you, Pastor Hovind." Scott.
Very interesting question. I guess I never thought of it, nuclear war. I do think there will be nuclear warfare based on Zechariah, where it says it's going to blow the meat right off the people's bones, blow their flesh off before they have time to fall down, while they stand on their feet. I think it's Zechariah 12 or near around 12, 11, 13, 14. And same with the animals. The same curse happens to the animals. It blows the flesh off the bones before they have time to fall down. So I think that's pretty obviously nuclear. There's another one talks about their eye sockets, I believe. Passage. I covered that in my book, What on Earth's About to Happen. Every verse I could find. Of course, I did that research. I finished it 2.5 years ago, so I don't have it all fresh in my mind now, but I put it all in there. Interesting question. There are 10 references to the sun and the moon going dark if you want to read them. The first one I can find is Isaiah 13:10. There's one in Ezekiel. There are 3 in the book of Joel. And then Matthew 24, about verse 29 or 30 has one. Mark 13, about verse 24, I think, and Luke 21. And then in Acts chapter 2, about verse 18 to 20, has another one. And then Revelation 6. So, yeah, it's certainly...
This call is from the San Jose County Sheriff's Office.
Yeah, nuclear war, or I don't know. The sun certainly seems to go through cycles. We have the solar sunspot cycle, and there are people who study astronomy who would tell you that stars can blink on and off, I guess is the term they use. They nova or supernova. So maybe it's something the sun actually loses its light for a time. I don't know the answer to that one. We'll have to wait and see. I know this, it's going to be an event that everybody will notice. If you look at all 10 of those verses that talk about the sun and the moon going dark, most of them are also associated with an earthquake. And I think that even blind people will notice that. So everybody living or everybody awake or asleep will notice what's going on that day when the sun and the moon go dark. I think it's going to be like a grand Hollywood entrance. This is, hey, Jesus is coming back. Everybody pay attention. On television, they always try to make the important people look really cool with their entrance. How do they walk onto the stage? You know, they'll have flashing lights or a lot of noise or smoke and mirrors and all kinds of stuff to get your attention. Everybody listen. Now here comes, Uncle Herman or something. And this, when Jesus comes, it's going to be amazing. This is going to be the grandest Hollywood entrance ever in the history of humanity. But is it nuclear? Great question. Don't have an answer, but maybe those few clues will help you do some research on that. Thank you for the question.
All right, thank you, Pastor Hovind. This question comes in from Dan, and Dan writes, "Good evening, Rudy. I have a few more questions for Brother Kent. Please let Kent know I have prayed fervently for his release, and the Lord has placed a sense of comfort in my heart, which leads me to believe he will be released." Questions. Ask Kent to please speak to this claim. Professional geologist Tom Balil, man, I have a hard time with that one, Balil, takes a second look at Gentry's claimed polonium halos, arguing that there is no good evidence they are the result of polonium decay as opposed to another radioactive isotope, or even that they are caused by radioactivity at all. Gentry is taken to task for selective use of evidence, faulty experiment design, mistakes in geology and physics, and unscientific principles of investigation and argumentative style. That did not mean much to me. I don't know if it means much to you.
It does, yes. I know know Robert Gentry. He lives near Knoxville, Tennessee. He has a laboratory in his basement. He worked for years at Oak Ridge Laboratory, published all kinds of stuff in major journals when they realized, whoa, his findings go against the evolution teaching of millions of years. A lot of his stuff has to do with granite. How is granite formed? There is no way that they can make granite that I'm aware of. If you melt a piece of granite and let it cool back down, it does not turn back to granite. It turns to rhyolite. And so, to my knowledge, there's never been the mystery solved of how granite could be formed. Robert Gentry says, and I believe he's correct, that granite is the original basement rock of the earth, and it has to be created, and it was created instantly, and one of the evidences for that is the radiopolonium halos. He wrote a book on it called Creation's Tiny Mystery, which is fabulous. But I would suggest you call Robert and give him a chance to defend himself. He's a very nice man, very humble man, very brilliant man, Seventh-day Adventist, so we need to fix that. But I would highly, highly recommend him. I think he lives actually in this town of Powell, right outside of Knoxville, Tennessee, so it's probably going to be a 412 area code, I think. I don't know. But Robert Gentry, give him a call. Let him defend himself. He can do that. Or the two guys, Rudy, in my book, in appendix number 2, where I talk about the flood, I talk about the guys in Colorado that have that information on how that heat and pressure can radically change radioactive decay rates. One of them's name is Eric, and the other one's last name is like a Cajun name, Boudreaux or something. I've mentioned it several times on here. Do you have that, or can you get that to keep handy?
I remember you did mention the name of Boudreaux, and I did look it up once. Do you remember the first name? I do remember that vaguely.
And anyway, I cover them. I mentioned them in my book, which I don't have, Appendix 2, and it gives their email and phone number. They're in Littleton, Colorado, but they also would be really good at answering the question about radiopolonium halos. So I would have to say, Dan, you need to go straight to Robert Gentry. Let him defend himself on that one. He's certainly capable. Another one that may be able is in Phoenix, Arizona, Walt Brown, physics professor. His book, Creation Science, or his book, creationscience.com is his website, and his book is called In the Beginning. It is fabulous, and you can download it right off his website for free. All right, hope that helps.
All right, very good. Okay, Pastor Hovind, this, and I'm going to look up Boudreaux in your woe book. I do have a copy of it. Let's see. Here we go. The next question comes in from, I think, Nico, and Nico writes, in Hebrews 11:30 and 31, it says, by faith the walls of Jericho fell down, after they were compassed about 7 days. By faith the harlot Rahab perished not with them that believe not, when she had received the spies with peace. Question, what should we learn from the life of Rahab? What should we learn from the story of Jericho?
Well, interesting. Jericho, we just finished reading that in our Bible study here. There are some great lessons there in the book of Jericho. Rahab was a prostitute raised in a heathen environment, and she decided, I want to serve God. God will take anybody. Doesn't matter what you've done. Doesn't matter what your mama did. Doesn't matter who your daddy was. You want to serve God, He'll take you. And I think Rahab is mentioned later in Matthew chapter 1. She was actually received into the genealogy. Rahab is spelled differently in Matthew, but she married one of the Jews apparently after this wall collapsed. She joined in with the children of Israel, became one of them, and became the great-great-grandmother of King David, which means ultimately she's in the lineage for Jesus Christ. Is it 6 o'clock, Rudy? We got to lock down at 6. I got to go.
Oh, yes, it is 6:01, sir.
Okay, I need to go. All right, well, I'll call back later on this evening.
Okay, Pastor Owen, don't forget about your Pastor Ernie Sanders interview.
Got it. All right, thank you.
Okay, God bless. Bye-bye. All right, guys, it's lockdown time for Pastor Ken Hovind. Can you imagine Pastor Ken Hovind being in prison, having to go to lockdown? I just can't even imagine. 8.5 years. Been 1 year in county jail. Oh, my goodness. Okay, 4 days, 13 hours, 56 minutes, 47 seconds. And we ain't going to stop supporting this man forever. We're going to support him no matter what happens. And I pray God Almighty, if He has to perform an earthquake right there in Pensacola and just open that prison right wide up and then have Judge Margaret Casey Rogers, Tiffany Hope Eggers, IRS Agent Scott Snyder, Charles Evans, J. Ryan Love, Rebecca Horton, and Michelle Heldemeyer, Pamela C. Marsh. I pray he has all of them come and apologize to Kent Hovind right in the middle of a big old earthquake. And once they've apologized, Kent Hovind can walk out of that prison with his held head high.